Hey everyone, I'm Karen Walby Solomon, and welcome to What's IGN Crushing On, IGN Africa's official entertainment podcast. I'm your host, and I'm joined as always by my producer and editor Rebecca Barches. So this is a show where we discuss all things entertainment and pop culture with a new guest every week. We bring recommendations, news, and fun facts, sometimes touching on the more serious issues surrounding these topics.
It's our opening night. You need to make a good impression.
Fantuga af, that's all on this class.
That was the trailer of the new film One Night Kwa Mxolisi, which is now streaming on Showmax and DSTV Now. So later on in the episode, we have a conversation with the director and the lead actor of the film, Sisanda Henna. But before we get to that, we have 2 interviews per episode now. So this week we chatted to comedian Waylene Beukes, who has been a force on social media with her handle Waylene. Everybody knows her little skits and one-liners and jokes. So we had an interesting chat about growing up in Namibia, navigating the comedy industry as a woman, and just like what show she's obsessed with. Spoiler alert, she really likes Ozark. So anyway, here's our chat with Waylene. So hi Waylene, thanks for joining us on the show. How have you been? How's 2021 been for you so far?
Honestly, do you know what, actually? 2020 made me not care about what happens this year. Like, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, people have asked me, like, what are your plans for this year? My plans?
What are plans?
When people are like, I'm taking it day by day. I'm taking it hour by hour. Like, I'm doing this with you now, and I'm watching Netflix after this. Whatever happens at 10, who knows? I could be in a jacuzzi. I don't know. But for now, this is what I'm doing.
You could be in a whole different province, in a whole different country. Walk over the border.
Actually, the funniest thing is I could actually walk over the border.
Who knows what country I'll be in by So like, I obviously have to ask you, because you're my first guest from Namibia. What was it like growing up in Namibia? I mean, I'm very interested.
I mean, like, someone even asked me, like, why'd I leave? Why'd I go start my career in SA? And I'm like, one day as a Namibian child, you're just like looking out your window and you look at the desert and you're like, there's focal here, and you leave. I'm not sure if I can swear on this show. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know if I could swear on this. But yeah, so you just like, you realize there's like nothing to do here, and but it's actually like, funny enough, I found the older you get, because I never understood why anyone stayed. When you're younger, you never understood why anyone would want to live here. Then you get older and you go to countries like South Africa, and and you see, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, Johannesburg, and you see what the big city life is like, and you're like, no, it's okay, I'll go back to my gurus and my desert. It's not that bad. Now that I think of it, it's not that bad. Our Wi-Fi is a bit slower than yours, but hey, we manage. We only have like 3 Mr. Prices, but we're okay.
So were you like always a funny child, or was there something that caught everyone by surprise?
I think it's I've had conversations with other female comedians about this. The funniest thing is I think I've always been funny. I've always been creative. Like, my parents always used to tell me something like, I was very interested in the ads on TV. When they would come on, I would like already know what the ad was about before the thing happened. But it's funny when you're a girl and you're funny or creative, it seemed as, like, it's a cute thing you do. But when you're a guy, it's like, oh, you're funny, you should invest in that, you should do that. Until you later, like, what's the funny thing when you get older now. Everyone's like, oh, this makes so much sense that you want to do comedy, that you're doing writing and stuff. But I'm like, none of you told me this when I was growing up. Like, not a single one of you was like, hey, don't go study law, do this. And it's like, you guys could have saved me some money. You know, we all could have we could have cut this shorter. But so it's always been there. It's always been, because it's always, everyone also always asks you, like, when is the moment you knew you wanted to do comedy, or when, and it's always been there. I have no definite moment that I was like, yo, I'm a comedian. I don't. It's a blur of so many things. That's what makes it so, like, foundational. It's just always been. I died my first time. Like, most comics want to lie and say, like, oh my gosh, I killed my first time on stage. I died hard.
Tell me about your first gig. I'm so keen.
It was so horrible. I remember everything. I remember the host was wearing a yellow hoodie. That's how bad my first death was. I remember. And you know, the thing is, it was like this small town, a small restaurant gig. None of the big comics ever came there. I was working in events at the time, so I was running the gig. So that was like, I was like, okay, cool. This would be like my chance to kind of like slip my way into that. So not a lot of big comics were there and stuff like that would normally come to the gig. I'm not lying. That night, that specific night I performed, oh my gosh, everyone was there. So you have your comedy heroes at the back. And they're all sitting like at the last two tables. And they're just watching me die on stage, like die. I'll never forget. We were once at the Goliath Comedy Club, and Jason Goliath was like, oh, like he's telling the one guy that saw me die, like a big producer. He was at the show the first time I performed, and Jason's telling him, oh, this girl's funny. And he had this look of, this girl, like, this girl. No, you must be talking about another girl, because I've seen this girl, I've seen her do her thing. It was so bad. I can't even. I don't even know.
So they remembered you from that time.
It was so bad. No, it's one of those things, like, how many colored girls are doing stand-up? So they were like, yeah, we remember this Asian-looking small girl. She's very much imprinted into our memory. So yeah, and it was. But the beauty of it was, like, I kind of got to be an underdog for very, very long, which allowed me to, like, kind of suck for a while, which was
and
cool.
Also work on it.
Yeah, so you get to, everyone's expecting you to die. So you die on stage multiple times. You perfect things besides your jokes. You perfect timing, like entrance, how you move on stage. So I got time to do that and then start getting better.
So the dying was like a blessing in disguise.
Look, I wouldn't call it a blessing because it's still dying on stage. It's not called dying. You still, like I just told you, I have haunted memories. These things keep me awake at night.
But okay, so you know, when people talk about colored people, they talk about people from Cape Town.
Yes.
And there's like a large community of colored people that don't live in Cape Town. Is that like a stereotype that's also...
It's so funny because, like, even today, like, my mom's from Uppington in the Northern Cape. So she's colored. My dad is Buster, which is like Namibian color. I don't even, it's not, I just say that because it's easier to explain than the whole, it's a mixture of Khoisan and German and all those. It's same formula, different ingredients. Basically. But what that does is it means we have different, so my mom and dad, they have different cultures, they grew up different histories, different things. So for me to just go like, hey, I'm colored, and erase my Buster side because it's hard to explain what Buster is so detrimental to this side. And I hate when people just go like, oh, but colored and Buster are the same thing. It's not. Or going like, oh, you're just like Cape Town or whatever. And also what that happens is now you have one picture of what a colored girl or colored guy is supposed to look like. There's obviously some similarities we carry through with all of us, but example, when it comes to like features and stuff, I have very sharp cheekbones, example, and small eyes. when I'm in South Africa, it gets, because people don't know the Buster line comes direct from Khoisan. They go like, oh, you have Asian features. I'm like, no, if you knew the Sun people have very sharp cheekbones and small eyes, that's where it comes from. I'm just very light skinned, but it's not Asian heritage. But people are like, they don't want to learn, they don't want to know. So they're just going to go with what's easier for them or what they want to experience. And the second problem also with colored, the whole color thing is our people ourselves are very problematic. So it's hard to defend or sometimes talk about it, because it's like, while we are having the right conversation, we're trying to have the right conversations, on the other side, it's like going more to the European. I always get so mad when I see colored people going to the European side, because I'm just like, you're not winning that side. Just come here. Just like, no, sweetie. It's not for us. It's not for us. I know you think it's for us. It's not for us. We're losing there as well. So might as well just. It's like my mom once told me that she's like, you must remember one thing about a racist white person. They're racist against everyone. Like a racist white person doesn't care if you're light skinned, doesn't care if your hair is straight, doesn't care if your eyes are brown. If you are not white, you are like not applicable in that. So that's where I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Because in the end, it goes back to the fact that your race isn't actually what makes them discriminate against you. It's so much deeper than that. It's their sense of superiority, and they are superior over all.
Exactly. So a racist white person doesn't care. You're in the house. It's no point. You're losing. You're losing. So you lose on the side. Exactly. Lose with the allies. Come on.
Yeah. Come now. So, like, I mean, obviously, a lot of people have also spoken about how difficult it is for women in comedy. So, what has your experience been like?
Look, I've worked in entertainment. I used to work, did promos, and then I like full on ran events and stuff like that. And then I've also interned at a law firm. And then that's when I moved into, after I dropped out, I moved more into the entertainment segment. I will say this. It's not without its faults, but the comedy, the industry itself with the guys is a way better working environment than the others. I think the issue more comes in with when I have to deal with outside factors like producers and those people and promoters. But my actual working environment, maybe it's also just my own personal experience. I don't want to speak on anyone else's, but it's been amazing for me. I have a support system that is I've never had in any other of those working environments. Whereas when you work in a law firm or when you work in entertainment, you always feel like a woman working in this thing. You're always made aware of the fact you're a woman, you are less, and doesn't matter what you do, it never gets appreciated, it never gets anything. Whereas with the guys, sometimes in comedy, they say very, very stupid things. I won't lie. They say very, like, honestly, like sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, how did you get married? How do you have a life? How are you 50 and have a life? Because the things coming out of your mouth. But it's just like, they'll say it once in a while. And then they're like, but they're genuinely pretty harmless most of the time.
I've been to quite a bit of shows, and I've just seen the way the male comics have like sort of like hyped up and encouraged the women. And I was like, it's actually very heartwarming to see. Like, and I mean, obviously I'm from the outside, like as an audience member. And I mean, obviously I don't know what it's like for you guys personally, but I've it seems like a very good, like.
The thing is, they also like, especially the comics you are closer to, they know how hard it is for you. So they try and not make it even harder. But at the same time, I remember when I started, like I said, I died a lot in the beginning. So it was a thing of, there were comics that kind of believed in me, but they were on some, if you want to do this, you need to toughen up. So they're like, we're not going to, if you die on stage, no one's going to come up to you and be like, oh, you get him next time, Tiger. You're going to feel what it feels like now, early in your career. And if you can't take it now, you're not going to make it further. I remember like doing gigs I was 21 doing gigs in Soweto, and you die. And it's like you're so far from home. You're literally in Johannesburg, also far from your house. You don't speak vernac. You've just died on stage. It's just a bad experience, and it's like they're not going to go soft on you for this. But then the thing is, I will like that same specific gig. I was like, it was a horrible gig, and I just wanted to go home and stuff like that. And one of the comics was like, "No, you can't go home alone. You're still in Soweto. You're still like a female alone at 2 a.m. in the morning. We're not letting you go home alone. Like, we're not just gonna like." In that sense, we're not going to let you fend for yourself, but you still, this comedy thing is separate from who you are as a woman. Like, you need to, and that was one of the important things also that I needed to decide. It's like, do you want to be a comedian? Do you want to be a female comedian? Those are two different things. Do you want to play on the female aspect the whole time, or do you just want to be funny and have people think you're funny? Sorry, I know this is a weird thing to say. My friend works in the mines and her phone keeps going off, so she has to go to the mines right now.
Oh, gosh.
So if you keep hearing the alarms, I'm like in a very remote town right now. You guys think I'm joking. I'm here by the diamonds. That's why I'm here. Trying to get diamonds. Anyway. So I remember one of the comics was like, got me home, and I was like crying because this was a horrible performance. And still made sure I got home safe, walked me to my gate, and was like, yeah, that sucked. And then like left, like just like a reminder, like, glad you're home safe, but do better. Do better next time. And what makes a difference is because it's like in anything in life, I think when you earn people's respect and trust and admiration, it means more than them just giving it freely. And that has nothing to do, or for me specific, once again, I don't want to, because I'm not unaware of the fact that being light-skinned, being young makes a difference for me than other people. So I'm just like, I'd never want to speak on anyone else's experience. But I'm just like, having earned it versus it just being freely given has made a difference for me. And it also makes a difference when, if you do, because you'll always die on stage, you'll always have bad moments on stage, you'll always not be funny. Twitter reminds me of that daily, because I'll be like, this tweet is a banger, it's gonna get the whole squad laughing, and then everyone's like, no, this is bad, Waylene. This was a horrible idea. It makes you deal with that better, because you know you've had moments where you were really funny, genuinely funny, and real people laughed at it, real people cared, people who you look up to cared. So the bad ones don't even come close to outweighing the good ones.
So so for like young women wanting to get into comedy, I mean, I think that it's really scary. What would you advise them? I mean, I think like, I mean, obviously you saying that you knew you had like, sort of like you knew you wanted to do this, but I think for most people it's like, is it worth the rejection and the pain?
The one thing I will say is representation matters, because like not to dive too deeply into it, but I was hanging out with comedians for a long time before I started comedy, because I was seeing a comedian. But I never saw myself doing comedy. I've always been a comedy fan my whole life. And it wasn't until I saw Lindy perform one night at Kitchener's. And I'm like, I was sitting there and I'm like, this girl is a year older than I am. Colored girl, a year older than I am. And she's killing it. And I'm like, I can like that's that's the thing I needed to see. I needed to see someone like me do the thing. I think that's all it is. We just need to see more people of us doing the thing and making a space, because also comedy is a boys' club. As much as I said the boys are like accepting sometimes, it still is a boys' club. They still sometimes talk over you. They're a boys' club. They'll always be a boys' club in a sense. But so what happens is the more women join, the more women of color join, the more we can start our own girls clubs and stuff, and we don't
Yeah.
need their spaces. We don't need their approval. Like, it's like I said, it's nice to get it, but it's like when you reach to the point where you go, I know what I bring to the table, I know I'm funny. You don't need their constant thank yous or approvals. So it's just, I think we just need, everyone needs to just see themselves doing the thing. Also, what I would like, I would just, I would like to see more. I know this is going to sound messed up. I'd like to see more average people of color in entertainment. Not in the sense of like looks or anything, but just like talent wise also. Because I'm like, there's so many mediocre straight men and stuff doing a thing. Like, that get to do it, that don't get scrutiny for it. I remember it's like, if I'm on the lineup with another woman of color, it's automatically we're against each other without us even having said it or done it. Maybe that's also just what I feel, but it just automatically now becomes this thing. It's like now we're being scaled against each other. And we have to, like, then we can't do okay. You're not allowed to do okay. We have to do great. We have to do great. Whereas everyone else can kind of just not die on stage and they'll be okay. So it's just like, I just want us to have more average, just to balance it out, I think, just to like equal the scales. Because it's like every single person of color I know doing things, and Black people that I know doing things in entertainment, they have to be exceptional. They're not allowed to just be, you're not allowed to be a BC student. You have to be an A+ student. And that gets exhausting sometimes. I mean, I've been feeling it with my own content. So you're like, I don't want to put stuff out because it's not like this amazing thing. Or if it doesn't do great, I get into a vibe and I'm like, no, delete this. This did horrible. Because you're not allowed to put out anything mediocre. You just have to give A-grade material all the time. And that's not sustainable.
It's so true. So, when you're writing material like from your own life, because I mean, I've seen new sets where you've spoken about dating, and like how do you decide what to use? Like, how do you cross that line between, okay, this is something I can use as material, or this is something I don't really want to share with other people?
I'm not even going to lie. That is still a tricky line to, because even now, even with just the stuff that happened in 2020, and some things are so specific that even if, look, the broader audience won't get it, but there's people who know me personally that will be like, oh no, we know exactly who you're talking about. But the one thing I've just learned is like, in some, like, I had an ex who lost it, who, I didn't even make a joke on stage, I made a tweet about it, and he sent me a message and he said my heart is as dried up and dead as the Namib desert, or has been hardened by the Namib desert for many years. But like in that case was
I would have
also just,
tweeted that afterwards.
I did also, I was like, I made a whole thing. Because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Because the thing also of that was, he got mad about me speaking out about something he did to me. And I'm like, you don't get to dictate how I deal with my pain. I try to change the names on stage or not use names when I talk about personal experiences. But what you do to me as a person, that's on you. You can go on. You can also go do comedy or write a song or whatever you need to do. If you want to tell your version of it or whatever, it's fine. It gets, for me, it's not even relationship. The relationship ones, I don't care that much about. It's more about the family ones. You know, also growing up colored, it's like a thing of, oh, you're not allowed to talk about this and this and this. We're not allowed to like these things are not allowed to be spoken about. Like, yeah, like I can't even tell you, like one of my funniest jokes is like the way my grandmother died, and I'm not allowed to talk about it on stage because my family was like, no, you're not allowed. And I'm like, but that's what happened. And it's hilarious. Yeah, so they don't let me talk about that, and I'm like, I could be famous. But like it gets trickier with that. It gets a bit tricky. But then at the same time, I'm also just like, but it's also like as much as it's also, once again, it's my life. So I should be
Yeah.
able to talk about my life as much as I want to. But you have to be cautious, because it's the same thing. How much does a person mean to you? If you're willing to talk about them or the experience on stage, you must be also willing to lose them,
Yeah.
because it's their right to also be like, yo. So everyone I've like, especially when it comes to my dating stuff, most of those guys I talk about, like, they don't mean anything. So, and it's also been, I know it's funny occurrences, but it's been the lighter ones. So it's not even been like my real heartbreaks or stuff like that, because those ones are a bit personal and not funny. I've tried. There's a fine line. There's a fine line when you're on stage and you tell a joke and you can feel the audience go, oh, shame. That shame is worse than you dying on stage, because that just means people feel sorry for you and you're like, oh my gosh, that was not cool.
I went to a workshop thing with Waylene Beukes, and she was like, you have to write as if your parents are dead. And like I was quite young then, and I took that literally. And then after a couple of like blog posts and the shit that went on afterwards, my sister was like, no, that's white people. You need to understand. You cannot write as if your parents are dead.
Even when your parents die,
Oh,
you still write about it as if they're alive.
yeah, no. I get that fine line.
It is so fun. It is so fun. It's just like, it gets tricky, because it's also like, the funniest comedy comes from truth. The
Yeah.
funniest comedy comes from truth, and you're like, I'll be sitting on some fire jokes and I'll be like, damn, I can't even, like, I had COVID. I can't make any jokes about it, because it's like, I don't know how to not cross the line.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like something funny. Like, the one funny thing that happened, I went to the gate. I had my phone in my one hand, and then I coughed into my other hand. And I was outside, and I was like, and my mom was like, "Keep bringing that COVID in here, AC." And I'm like, now I'm there with the COVID in my one hand. And I'm like, yo, what am I gonna do with this COVID? Where am I? Like, what am I gonna? I've got my phone. I can't go back into shit me no. Now I'm standing there with the COVID in the one hand, and I'm just like, and I'm like, oh, Waylene, they must say COVID burns in the sun. So now I'm opening my hand and I'm just standing in the sun there for like about 20 minutes, just like burning the COVID out. Like, because my mom told me I can't come back into the house with that. And what kills me is like, we all already had COVID. So I'm like, what's more? What's a little sprinkle of COVID on the other COVID we already had? And so those are jokes you're dying so much.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, that's funny now in conversation with you. But I was figuring, I'm like, can't type it, you can't tweet it. I don't have a stage. This is the closest thing I'm getting to telling some jokes. So that's also another thing, because online funny and stand-up funny is two different things. With stand-up or talking to someone, I can explain, you can get a bit more context. Now, example, I just talk about that joke, it comes across as insensitive to some people and stuff like that. But then you go like, it's my COVID, bruh. I should be allowed to deal with it. So like, I don't give me say, my COVID to deal with it.
So back to your like career and stuff. So what would you say has been like your highlights this far?
I know it has nothing to do with me, but like meeting Dave Chappelle was really cool.
No,
it had no impact on my career whatsoever, but I met the guy. I was like, I met the guy.
What is he like?
I met the guy. So he came down, the Global Citizens. I remember the Global Citizens was the Sunday. He had a private party the Saturday night. Like, so we were all there, but it's like you couldn't interact with him, whatever. But it was a very nice like experience, very great music experience. And like towards the end of the night, like people are leaving now, the party's done. It was in Joburg at Carfax. Those places, they have like shared bathrooms. There's just like the one bathroom. There's not like
Okay.
guys or girls. So I was wearing like a jumpsuit thingy. So now I come out of the bathroom stall. My friend is busy zipping me up. I told her about this joke. She told me something that I added to a joke. So she was like, "Oh, what's the joke?" So I'm busy telling her the joke while she's zipping me down, and I'm bent over. As I'm done, I look up. I see a big bouncer by the bathroom door, and right like next to me is Dave Chappelle washing his hands, and he just gave me like a nod, and he left. So I don't know if that's technically meeting him, but to me that was me meeting him. Oh, and the worst part is the joke was in Afrikaans, so he didn't understand a thing I said. So couldn't tell me if I was funny or not because the joke was in a different language.
Didn't he live here? Doesn't he maybe speak Afrikaans?
Maybe, because he gave me like a nod of approval. So I'm like, or a nod of acknowledgement that you're a human being that's also here. I don't know what the nod meant. And I will one day ask him about that nod. I think so.
He's not here to confirm or deny. Just believe what you want to believe. No, but go. Dave Chappelle.
That was dope. The other thing was like, even if it's just 7 minutes, it's the fact that I got to like be like film stand up for TV for Showmax, and it like properly professionally filmed set thing that it's different from the recordings you do at shows or stuff like that. It actually is one of my best performances ever. So it's just nice to have like a concrete, like if someone asks me, "Hey, I want to watch you. Where can I watch you perform?" I can be like, "Hey, go on Showmax.
Is this
watch
Frizz Pop? Oh yeah,
Frizz Pop." So I'm like, "Hey, go watch that." It's just a nice hard piece of evidence that this isn't just a hobby anymore. Because there's no like, you don't graduate in stand up. You don't like, you just do it for years, and then people start going, "Oh yeah, she's a comedian." After a while, there's no formal thing. We don't wear robes. It's just you just have to do it long enough that people believe it and that you believe it. So that was cool. The cool thing about stand-up is like you get to do so many other cool things. I've gotten to do so many cool things, writing for TV and like just filming, being casted and stuff. It's just, all of it is just so cool all the time. I think that's why I miss it so much as well. I miss my life. Because it's just like every day is just like, hey. And the thing about comics that I love more about other people in entertainment, comics are most are down to earth people or very chilled people. So my friend has a radio interview or something, he'll be like, "Hey, come meet these people," and then you meet those people, and then next time those people are like, "Hey, you come on next time," and then you're like, "Oh, so it was this easy." So I'm like, yeah, okay. So that's all you have to do this. You just kind of have to be in people's faces long enough for them to be like, "Just put her on TV, man. Like, just get out of the way, man. She's in the frame already. Just put her in the thing." And then that's how you end up on MTV. You just stand there long enough till someone's like, "Just put her on." Maybe she'll go away if you put her on for a few minutes.
So, what comedians inspire you?
So what I learned doing comedy, there's comics that I find hilarious, like proper hilarious. Then there's comics that inspire me and my work specifically. So there's obviously I love Dave Chappelle, I love Richard Pryor, I love all those guys, like the older guys. But when it comes to me as a young woman of color, their work doesn't impact my work, if that makes sense. They're great, but I enjoy them as a comedy lover. But for me, comedic wise, people who influence me as Ali Wong, John Mulaney, Daniel Sloss, Dylan Oliphant. Trying to think now. I also I draw a lot of inspiration from my peers as well, or like the people I work with. Like one thing I've learned, South African comedians are actually way better than international comedians sometimes, because like you'd get guys who are headliners overseas and stuff, and then they come here. Okay, I have this analogy. Best way to explain it: if I don't even watch UFC, but it explains it the best. So if you have weight classes in UFC, so you've got your, I don't know, babies, beginners, your middle class, and then your heavyweights. I don't know the names, Karen. I don't watch UFC.
Babies, okay.
But you
Baby
get like
class,
but you get the
but I don't know enough to predict.
the levels, the 3 levels. You were also like, maybe it is baby class. So if you take, so they overseas heavyweights are your Chris Rocks, your Jimmy Carrs, those names, Jim Jeffries, all those big names. And then we've got our big names as well. But then you take the middle class comics and our middle class comics, and they go head to head. Ours like murder them over the top. Only their greats are great, if that makes sense. But then everyone else after that is like not great at all. I've seen enough international comics come here and bomb, and then you're like sitting there, they're getting paid so much to be here, and they're just bombing, and we're supposed to be in third world countries, and you're like, oh, but you're like coming from the States, you're coming from England, you're this well-traveled comic who makes a living out of this, and I shouldn't be thinking I can do this better than you. You get what I mean? I shouldn't be like, oh no, this guy's taking up so much time, can he end this set? I should be in awe. I should be seeing something new, different, I guess. Yeah, so that's why I draw a lot of inspiration from the comics in the scene as well. They've helped me so much. It's just amazing. One of the things I also unlearned was, before I did stand-up, I used to easily say, oh, this guy isn't funny. This comic isn't funny. Or like if you go like, oh, this is my favorite comic, I'm like, oh, I don't find him that funny. I don't think he's funny. Then you do stand-up and you realize, for someone to, example, get a Netflix show, all the steps, all the amount of prep and stand-up and years of work that has to go into that before they can. So maybe I just don't find that person funny, but somewhere, somehow that person has to be funny, because there's no way you can make it that far without being funny. There's too many blocks. And the only commodity comedians work in is funny. Like they only respect funny. So you don't get, Netflix doesn't call you and give you a special because you've got 1 million followers on Instagram. They don't care about that. So someone has to be funny. So I think to all degrees, every comic that we know is funny. They might just not be funny to you, but it's tough. Sorry. I realized I can talk about comedy like the whole day. I think that's where my dates don't end with me getting laid. Ends with me going home and watching more comedy.
Sadly for whoever's listening to this, that comedy is one of my favorite subjects as well. I just find it so fascinating. So I'm like, yeah, talk about it forever. So okay, so what have you watched recently that you can recommend?
Why am I going blank now? Okay. I started The Undoing, which I also saw on your thingy. Quite nice. I love Nicole Kidman playing a white woman. It's just like, she plays a white woman so well.
Yeah.
So well. Like she
She's
just does it
white
so
woman.
well. Yes, like, and always having marital issues. I'm like, yes, Nicole. Like not yes, but yes. So that's been pretty cool. We've been doing this thing, me and my housemates, like watching horror movies like every night before we sleep, and just like, but the thing is, they're so hilarious. The people I live with are so hilarious. It's like we roast the things happening in the horror movies, and it's like this one guy who was like sitting on the bed, we're watching Hereditary, and he's going through like the most, and he's like obviously like getting possessed and stuff like that. And my one friend just goes like, COVID. It's so funny. And you can't make us laugh at this now. So yeah, I've been doing that. That's been cool. What else? I think it's this thing of there's so much to watch on Netflix these days and stuff. It's just, you just get caught up so much. I've been rewatching The Office as well. That's always good. That's always great. I want to start Lupin. I haven't seen it. Looks good. Everyone says it's good.
Yeah, and it's all showing the trailer thing on my Netflix.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you click
Yeah. I'm in that phase, you know, when you've binged too many series for a while, now you're just watching movies. I'm watching movies now because it's like after Bridgerton and all of that, I was just like, okay, let's take. I loved Bridgerton, but they could have shaved 20 minutes off each episode. They could have. They really could have. They could have snipped it up. They could have. She could have gotten the scissors on that one. That one was. It was good. It was good, but
it was like 20 minutes of just like sex. Like
exactly, and I'm like, I don't. You know, and it's so mean because it's a pandemic. Not all of us are living that life right now. And I was like, yeah, you know. I don't need to see this all the time, Sean. I get it. I'm single. I get it. I'm sitting here watching Bridgerton by myself, eating chips. I know. I'm here. I can see it for myself. You don't have to rub it in my face. And I also obviously rewatched Ozark recently again. It's my favorite show. I think it's great. It's amazing. Yeah. I think I've rewatched it about 5 times now.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
think it's because I want to. Yeah. I think I want. The thing about Jason Bateman is like every role he plays is like he accidentally landed in a situation and there just happened to be cameras. Like it's just like he just walked into something and then people started filming, and that is his sarcasm and everything. I'm just like, oh, it's so amazing.
I haven't seen.
Also, I think I just wanna.
Sorry,
I just want to launder. Yeah, I want to launder money. That's why I watch it. I hope one day Sarth doesn't watch this podcast. Find out.
I just want to know what he's like in a drama, though. I've never.
I think that's why I loved it so much. Sorry, he's different, but it's the same. He's the same. If you remember him, like in Arrested Development and in Horrible Bosses, it's like the same character, but just in deeply serious situations. But it's like he does it so well, like so well. It's just he's great in it.
I think he's probably like this like very good like straight man, like
that makes sense.
no, not as in like sexuality, as in like,
but also
again,
but also, a straight white man.
But he just like, so like when comedies he'd be like the straight man and everybody else is like zany and like Sudeikis. What's that one of the squeaky voices name?
Dave, I don't know.
Sunny.
I think his name is Dave. Yeah. That one. It's squeaky voice. Squeaky voice.
So they're all like squiggly next to him, and he's just like this. But now he's like this. But like everybody else is like this. So he is always kind of serious. I'm like acting this out to you, and like the audio podcast,
and that's why I'm dying. She's like squiggly. She's literally making the one hand squiggly. Is the one scene where I think the best description of his whole character in Ozark is that one scene in Horrible Bosses where the police are questioning him. And they're like, why were you speeding past the thing? And he was like, I was drag racing. They're like, in a Prius. He's like, I'm not a very successful drag racer. That is his whole vibe in Ozark. And it's like, these are drug dealers and mafia and the FBI, and he's just on some, I was drag racing. The whole movie. That's the whole show. That's him. Marty Bird, the whole movie. Whole show. Just, I was drag racing.
So what do you say your like all-time favorite movie is?
Parasite. I know it's Parasite. Before that, it was Mulan. The animation. Like, I remember when Edgar's, I don't know if they did it in South Africa, but Edgar's used to have like a kiddies section. And they'd play the Disney movies and stuff like that they were also selling. So I remember my mom was shopping. I was about 4 or 5, and Mulan was playing. But by the time we had to go home now, Mulan wasn't done. It's the first and only time I've thrown a tantrum. I was like, no, we're not leaving. I need to know how this thing ends. I need to know how I need to know if they defeat the Huns. I need to know this. Got the cassette tape. I watched it every single day till like it was stolen, which I don't believe. I think my mom just told me it was stolen. I don't think it was stolen. I don't think
Tape
they
went to
stole
the
our
farm.
cassettes. Like with J-Lo. Our dog, R.I.P. J-Lo went to the farm. My parents are such con men. How can they tell me that? How can they tell me they took the dog to the farm when we don't even have a farm? Who does that? Who does that? J-Lo's on the farm. Whose farm? And then they would sell me dreams. They'd be like, oh, it's a Yagi's cup. I'm like, what? Whose farm is this? We never go with city people. I just said, and why did you just take my dog to the farm without telling me? So yeah, Mulan. J-Lo's on the farm watching Mulan right now. And then I think it was I don't know, there's so many things that even till now that was said in the movie that just stick with me. Like when her dad tells her the flower that blooms in adversity is the most beautiful of all. So every time I do go through adversity or stuff like that, I'm just like, I will come out better on the other side, as cliche as it might sound. That song, let's get down to business, to defeat the Huns, is one of my favorite songs ever. So yeah, there's that. Mushu and Kricky's relationship. I think I've just always been drawn to comedy because I was a toddler and I was like, the low-key moments were so hilarious to me. Like there's this one part where Mushu feels betrayed and he's just like, everyone's lying to me, everyone's lying to me, and he points to the horse and he's like, and what are you, a cow? And I'm just like, that's so funny because he's not a cow, he's a horse. And it's just hilarious all the time. And yeah, and then Parasite, for obvious reasons, Parasite just blew my mind. I don't think I've seen anything like it. I don't think I ever will. And it was just great. It was just full blown great. And then a movie I know out of my head, word by word, is John Tucker Must Die.
Oh,
I can recite that whole movie.
Cinema
Excellent movie. Like greatness. Like all the elements you need in a teen rom-com. Just there, right there.
So who's your first celebrity crush?
Let's think now. Cartoons don't count, ne?
Cartoons can count. Yeah?
Okay, so definitely first Cusco from Emperor's New School, which really set the tone for what happened later in my life when it came to dating. It's just like skinny guys, narcissistic skinny guys who just like from wealth, who come from wealth. Just the tone was set there. And then Michael Cera when I became like more a teenager, and then that also just set the tone. Yeah,
I
I'm
didn't
like
know people actually crush on him. I thought it was like a meme.
no. I actually I think it was Superbad. Superbad was the first movie I saw of him, and I was just like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. But it's also because I think it was also like I was younger. He was a relatable character in age because it's like, and also he was achievable. He still feels achievable. That's the thing. That's the nice thing about Michael Cera. He seems achievable, and he's always like doing weird. He always looks like no one told him. You know when you're like when someone's like, hey, let's quickly drive somewhere, or we're quickly just gonna go, and then you end up going somewhere you weren't supposed to be wearing slippers and a gown to. And he's always like that. He's always like, you guys should have told me to go change first. Like, why didn't you guys tell me this is what we were doing? He always has that vibe. And I'm just like, oh, come here. I just want to take care of him.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I've never, I'm just going to keep talking nonsense, bro. That's my specialty. I do this for a living, is just talk nonsense. I'll never forget this one day. Someone was like, they were trying to insult us. They were like, we were a few comedians. They're like, you comedians just talk nonsense. You're basically just clowns. my one friend who had so much clown knowledge. We were like, why do you have so much clown knowledge? He's like, hey, you actually have to go to clown college to be a clown. You have to like, and we're like, why do you know so much about clowns? And why are you defending clowns instead of defending?
Clowns come
We're
from
like, it's not that.
essentially art
Yes.
of
He's like,
clownery.
you can't just become a clown. You need to be flexible to be a clown. You need to have a certain set of skills to be a clown. And we're just like, yeah. Now you're just making clowns make more money than comedians. We're like, whoa, dude. Which they do. Clowns make more money than comedians.
Oh, but where do you
Fun
get,
fact.
what do clowns do? Do they go to parties?
Yeah, but like
so many
it depends on what
circuses.
level. It depends on what level clown you are. I'm assuming there's like degrees of clownery. So like I think when you start out, like your starter clowns are like the kiddies parties does balloons, stuff like that. And as you move higher, you get like your circus clowns, but they're not really here. They're like overseas and stuff like that. And then like your top level clown is someone who keeps texting back someone that played them. That's like advanced level clowner. That's on that note, I ended on
Thank
a
you
laugh.
so much.
Yes. I've been Waylene Beukes. You guys have been a lovely audience. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Waylene. That was lovely.
So that was our chat with Waylene. You can find her on Twitter at stillwaybeline or on Instagram at maybe_it's_Waybelline. The links to everything discussed will be in the show notes. Now we have an interview with Sisanda. Sisanda is an actor, writer, director, producer who has been in everything from Rogue to Inconceivable to Deep State. His new film, One Night Kwa Mxolisi, tells the story of a group of university friends who get together one night to celebrating the opening of one of their friends' new restaurants. He's like he'll explain more in the interview, but he's like a rugby player turned restaurateur. We know those, we've seen those, we've gone to their restaurants. But over the course of the evening, the pressures of secrets between the group of friends surmounts to a breaking point. It's really good and it's really entertaining. You can, as I said, catch it on Showmax or on DSTV Now. So here's our chat with Sisanda. So hi Sisanda, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's amazing to be here. I'm excited. I've got my spiced chai latte with me, and I'm excited to chat to you.
So how have you been? Like, how has this COVID lockdown experience been like for you?
You know what, Karen? It's been crazy busy. So when lockdown started March last year, I had started filming on Inconceivable. Mnet's Inconceivable.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the show, if you know about it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like I've been super busy. So even when lockdown happened, I actually really enjoyed the first month. It's funny how like things slow down like to a halt, but I felt like for the first time in a long time, I had time to sort of reconnect with the things that I really wanted to do and that were important and there were less distractions. Anyhow, we went back to filming Inconceivable, and now it meant we pushed out the dates by a month. And I had a project waiting for me straight after Inconceivable, which then also had to push out its dates by a month. And that's a romantic comedy called Klein Karoo, the second installment. So I don't know if you've heard of it, but the first Klein Karoo did quite well as a Gatenet film, starring Tim Theron, and this one has Leandre Durand in the lead. And so I reprised my role playing his best friend, with whom they run a small production company, and we shot it in the Karoo. And after that, I went in to make One Night Kwa Mxolisi. I was on that movie set when I got the call to direct the movie. And that was the first invitation to just direct the film.
Sure. So you weren't starring in it yet?
Yes.
So tell us about the film. Tell us what it's about.
So the movie One Night Kwa Mxolisi, as sort of the title suggests, one night, a bunch of university friends who are also basically three and a half couples get together. They haven't seen each other in a while to celebrate Mxolisi's opening his new restaurant. Mxolisi is a professional rugby player who played like SA's under 21. That's when, he's got a Springbok rugby jersey and he's been playing pro rugby since. He's at the end of his career, and basically he's put everything he's got into this restaurant. Well, in fact, him and his wife have put everything into this restaurant, and it's named after him, but it's their restaurant. And the wife is played by Linda Mtoba, and she plays Lerato. And the friends that come through. At first, we meet Brian and Funi, which is Brian is played by Nyani Sotete. Funi is played by Funu Mugobani, who you would probably maybe have seen her in Seriously Single. And Nyani So is in Black is King, I believe. Yes. Mutlati is in How to Ruin Christmas. We used to be on Isidingo, and then Bushe Samuels, as well as Donovan Goliath. And there's a very unique cameo featuring role there, played by Mikaya Henna, who is my oldest son. He plays son to Fulu's son, to Fulu Nyaniso's character. Yeah.
Was he in the trailer? Is it because I know
he's the boy in the trailer? Yes.
So cute, so adorable.
Yeah, that's my son. Yeah. Yeah.
So was he excited to be part of?
Yes, he was very, very excited. Look, so they've been coming to movie sets from a young age, right? So because every now and then, obviously, your kids will come to work with you, and he's been a very artistic kid from a young age. Loves music. He knows an Adele album back and front, all the lyrics, all the words, like. So he loves watching movies and reading. He's so intuitive. I remember bringing him to the set of Inconceivable. I mean, he could already follow the plot line, and this character is doing that, and this character is doing that. Absolutely love it. So yeah, he was very excited to be a part of it.
So you said that you were called to direct first. So was that like that was your first introduction to the film?
Yes. So the introduction to the film. Then I was invited to direct a film, and a colleague of mine from a previous project had recommended me, and I was so happy, and I really liked the concept, read the script, and I enjoyed it, and I immediately climbed in and I said, hey, can I make a few changes to the script myself? And having written a screenplay myself before, I was really excited to just make sure this movie lifts off the page and really comes to life in a special way. So then, we started pre-production on the film. So let me tell you the story about the casting. So initially, I had other ideas on how I wanted to cast the film, but in the further discussions with the studio and channel, we found each other and sort of found this look that we now have in the final product. So initially, I wasn't part of the cast, and the more we discussed who these characters are and where they're from, I remember one day changing my presentation and putting my picture in there, saying that I think I should play that lead role. Yeah.
How difficult is it to direct yourself?
It is more so difficult. It's insane. I think yes, on a bigger budget with much more time to shoot, I think definitely a lot of things will be easier, including directing and acting. But I have to say, it's such a collaborative movie, because my cast was so giving and such great team players that they would support me a lot. So my co-actors, I remember even Yanis on one day, he had rapped already, and there's a scene we had spoken about during rehearsals and I said, hey man, we're shooting that scene tonight, for the next 2 hours or so. Can you stick around? And in fact, he offered. He said, hey, I'm going to stay. And he did. And like, he gave me some incredible tips that, that scene has made the cut and it looks really, really good. And even behind the scenes, I had my editor was on set every day and he was also my stand-in. So one, I had to have a stand-in. And which means, so he would, I don't know if you know how stand-ins work, but basically the stand-in will block the scene as if it's you, and I will be able to, I'll watch it on the monitor, and so then I can make all directorial changes. And once we're happy with how it flows and how we want to shoot it, we then swap seats. He then goes to the director's chair and I go and act, because now we're filming the scene. And that was the dance we were doing most of the time, and I would get extra tips from him and my script supervisor, because they were behind the monitor, and I would get tips from him, and I worked closely with my director of photography. So it was definitely about teamwork, because the director of photography, which is Dino Benedetti, we communicated a lot, about how it looks and what he thinks, etc. My first AD, the script supervisor, and my editor, they were all on set, helping, because you do have to take off the other hat in order to do the other thing properly. So I quickly have to take off the director's hat and be an actor, and then have to be completely immersed in that moment until someone cuts or they forget to call cut, and then I have to call cut. Because, I'm the director. And once I've called cut, I then switch to my directing hat, and I might watch 30 seconds of playback. Yeah, that was the dance.
So what do you think you prefer? Do you prefer acting or directing?
Karen, I'm going to say, you have to ask George Clooney the same. You have to ask even, I suppose, Ben Affleck. Wait, there's one other actor-director. He has made A Star is Born.
Oh, Bradley Cooper.
You see now, there we go. You see, ask Bradley to stop acting, or ask Bradley to stop directing. He wants to do both. Or ask Kanye West to not rap anymore. He must just make the beats. Or ask him to just rap and not make beats and see what happens.
But is it like a relief when you're acting, that you don't have to sort of like say if you're acting and somebody else is directing, like it's not your baby, so it's like you can just immerse yourself in the role.
It's very true. It's very true. I did a movie called Rogue, which has Megan Fox in it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the billboards, or it's a Showmax movie as well. And a Lionsgate movie with Megan Fox called Rogue. And that's directed by MJ Bassett. And yes, it was definitely a relief to not be carrying that movie on my shoulders as a director. Because it's an action movie, and it's not that I would never direct action, but it was definitely a relief. And I could just immerse myself in that. Particularly if I'm also doing an accent. And it was my first sort of full-on action feature film leading role, So, sometimes it's definitely a relief when it's somebody else's baby to direct.
So I did want to ask you, like, when it comes to roles that you choose, like, I was watching Checkers recently, and you were so good in your role, but what kind of roles do you prefer? Do you prefer the villainous roles or the more like good guy-ish?
I prefer everything that's multi-layered, that's challenging, eclectic, and I can see a real life person in it. So no, I don't have a particular type of character. In fact, I want to play so many different characters it scares me. Like, there's so many different types of roles that I want to play. So after Trackers, I did get a few requests to kind of reprise the Trackers role in other productions, and people sort of liked that so much, in that they wanted me to do the same thing, and I didn't want to do the same thing because I've done it, you know.
Yeah.
And the reason why, also, if you look at Trackers, so in the beginning, I was asked to audition for both parts, for the parts of Quinn, the police officer guy, or the role of Julius Nkunzi Shawangu. And I knew from the beginning, I was like, I've played that good guy. I am not interested in playing him at all. I want to try my hand at that. I've not played it, so let's go for it. And that's what I went for.
No, that was amazing. I get why you picked that role. It's like it's also so juicy.
Yeah, very juicy. I really enjoyed it. Listen, here's another juicy role that we made a series called Agent, which is streaming on Netflix, which is made for SABC and a French Canal Plus. Canal Plus is a French network that also broadcasts in the French colony, the French-speaking countries in Africa. But now it streams on Netflix. It's called Agent. But the role I play there, that's why I brought this up. Oh my gosh! Do yourself a favor, please watch it. That's season 1. Yeah, you gotta check out that guy. In fact, we might do a whole episode on that series alone, which at the moment is actually we are submitting for some international Emmy awards. So yeah, we look forward to what happens there.
So tell me, what is Agent about?
Yeah, Agent is a drama series about follows a ex-football star who's become an agent.
Oh.
And he now represents some of the players he used to play with, but now he's the agent. And it's the drama behind the scenes of looking after football stars, you know. Yeah, and it's, you know, picture Jerry Maguire meets Any Given Sunday, and that's all the drama there. I play the star footballer who basically makes a ton of money, but he's basically such a heck to look after as a client, because he's messy, you know, if you understand what I mean, from an agent's point of view.
I know, that sounds really interesting. I'm definitely going to.
But he makes all the money, all the girls, you know, all the women love him. He's got all the cars and the houses, and yeah. So it's all the drama off the pitch.
So you've worked in like almost all the facets like of the industry. Like, what would you like to do next?
That's such a lovely question. So I want to make the jump with a friend of mine many years ago. My role would be 2 things. Obviously, executive producer, because we created it, and as well as storyliner, writer, and the lead actor. I'm really excited about that, and there's 2 feature films I want to make this year, and I think I'm definitely ready for some studio and superhero movies.
Yeah, I can definitely see that though. So how do you know that, you know, like acting, the entertainment industry, how did you know that was for you? Like how did you decide to go into that?
It screamed at me because, okay, high school in what used to be known as Standard 9 or grade 11 now, and grade 12. In fact, from Standard 8, which is grade 10, 11, and 12, I'd been doing these skits at school with with my best friend at the time. So we would just write these skits, and then we would just perform them. After a while, the school started inviting us to perform them at assembly. So in front of 600 kids, we would then get on stage at the end of assembly and make the school laugh for like 7 minutes, where we were on stage and playing out like multiple characters. So that's when I knew that I have to do this. And then I did an inter-house play, I think in grade 10, for which I won Best Supporting Actor. And I definitely knew that I have to follow this. But when I finished matric in '99, and then I went to college, I didn't study drama. I went and studied IT.
Oh wow!
And I did that for 3. Yeah, I did that for 3 years. My parents were adamant I must do something that can guarantee me a job. You know, they thought that the other thing was a hobby at best. But if they are to invest money into an education, they felt that it should be something that can definitely pay back with like a job that's well paying. And at the time, you know, there was an IT boom. Anyway, so that's what I did. But then in my first year, I worked as an extra on some of the soaps, because the studios weren't far from my campus. So I would like sometimes do half the day at school and then go be an extra on the set. And every time I was on a movie set or even a soap opera set, I'd just be so fascinated, and so much of me would come alive, you know. And I would watch all those actors so carefully. I listened to every instruction those floor managers or the ADs were saying. Camera, stand by, lights, or I don't know, roll camera. And that whole place, I loved it so much. And that's back in the year 2000. We in 2021 now?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the beginning, me working as an extra. And then in my 3rd year, I got my first leading role in a drama series called Cha-Cha that was on SABC. Yeah. And so then I took 2 months off of school and my practical in-service training to go and film that. And man, spending 2 months on a movie set as a professional actor just blew my mind. I loved so much of the work. You shoot 12 hours a day, but I was so energized all day, every day, because this is something I'd been dreaming about for so long. And now here I was doing it. And I was surrounded by other creatives, and we were, you know, making movies, quote unquote. Yes, we're making a drama series. And then I went back to the job I had at the time, which was I was doing an in-service training, which is basically your practicals, you know, that you do in your 3rd year. And I knew then, it's like day one when I came back and I sat at my desk, I was like, just where I've been for the last 2 months, which was we were filming on location in the Eastern Cape for Cha-Cha. And I was like, no, I know what I need to do. That's when I knew for a fact that I must do this.
Sure. That sounds like perfect. Like that's like the perfect like love story beginning of.
Yes.
So who do you want to work with that you haven't worked with yet?
Tyler Perry,
Mm.
Oprah Winfrey, and Will Smith.
Perfect trio.
I could work with them in a number of capacity. I don't have to be acting with them. They could, I don't know, they could exec produce or co-produce or, yeah. But it's people, some people I enjoy and I would have to work with.
So what have you watched recently that you weren't in that you enjoyed?
I have an answer for you. So I watched there's two titles. Baby Driver. It's an old movie. It's not recent, but it was such a from a directing perspective, such a joy to watch because this director went to town, you know. But in terms of story and performance, there's a film called Manchester by the Sea, which is starring Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck's brother. And oh my gosh, like it's set in a small town, a tragedy, but such a well-told story, both in terms of the script and the actor, which is obviously the director working well with that actor as well. It's such a sweet, such a well-told story. And I enjoyed there's a rom-com, Always Be My Maybe. Now that should go on top of my list. Have you seen that one?
Yes, love it.
I can't believe how much I loved that movie. I can't get over how much I love it. And the Only Living Boy in New York. Okay, so The Only Living Boy in New York. Oh my gosh, it's so, you have to see it. Like the guys, people that are listening, listen. I loved that movie. I found it on Amazon. And I'm quickly checking who the director is because the director of this film also made another hit, which blew me away. So let's quickly talk about The Only Living Boy in New York. Okay, so that's the feature film. I mean, the title seems a little cumbersome, but oh my gosh, how well written! I really loved it. I mean, I enjoy thrillers and action, but it's a relationship drama. I really enjoyed it so much. So Mark Webb, the director, has also made 500 Days of Summer, which blew me away as well.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not typically a rom-com kind of guy, but the way he's made these movies, I was like, oh man. No, they really gripped me. And I just, I love brilliant storytelling. Yeah.
You can see that comes through. So, okay, this is the question that we ask everybody. But who was your first celebrity crush?
It must be like a Jennifer Lopez. Gosh, how old is Jennifer?
She's like mid-40s, I would say.
Is she not too young to be my first crush?
I mean, she was a fly girl.
Jennifer started early, right?
Yeah, she's been around a while. She was a dancer for Janet Jackson in the early 90s. Was she not a fly girl?
Karen, you're 10 years out.
Well, I don't know.
She's 51, baby.
She looks like 32. So
yes, 40. You're right. You're so flippin' right. She does look 32.
So I thought it was
she's
like being
enjoyed
like
her life, you know. She's married all the. No. She's 51. I'm 38. I turn 39 next month. It makes sense, yeah. So she was my crush. She and Nia Long.
Oh yes, definitely. What was Nia Long in?
I think she may have been in Boys in the Hood.
Yes, she was. No, I get both of them.
Yeah.
But
those are my and I'll probably work with them.
Yes.
You know, and by then, you know, the crushes will be. It's funny because in our business, it happens often. It's like you meet people that were your heroes, and then you're working with them. I remember one of the movies that made a huge impact on me. There's a 1991 movie called Sarafina.
Yes.
Made by Mbongeni Ngema, had written the musical and directed the musical, and Daryl James Gruett directed the feature film, which has Whoopi Goldberg and Somizi and a whole bunch of other people. And I remember one day in it could have been 2015, I started working on a new telenovela, and there was Mbongeni Ngema on set as one of my actors, and I was directing him.
Oh my
And we
gosh.
continued to work together for the year, So it happens. Like, if I work with Eddie Murphy next year, or or Martin Lawrence, I wouldn't be surprised. But people who were your heroes, growing up.
But isn't that amazing? Like, looking back and thinking about it and being like, if young me had to know, what my life would be.
What? Yeah. Talk to me in let's say a year or 2 years time, and I'll be happy to look back.
Yeah.
To say, oh my gosh, I just worked with so and so and so and so. Yeah, like to say, Wesley Snipes was on my set, or I was working with him, or he came onto my movie, for like a few days. That would be fun to look back and reflect on. Yeah.
But Sisanda, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. This was a very lovely chat, and I can't wait to catch up on everything that you suggested in this conversation.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed doing this with you as well. I can't wait till we do another one.
That was our interview with Sisanda Henna. You can find him on Instagram at Sisanda_Henna and on Twitter at Sisanda Henna. He's really active on both, and he's just amazing. He's been in like everything. So you can find his work on Netflix, on Showmax. I will link in the show notes, of course, to everything discussed. But yeah, that was a lovely interview and a lovely conversation with both him and Waylene. We've just been so lucky when it's come to guests, like someone from who, like, wow, someone as up and coming and popular as Waylene, and someone who is as established in the industry as Sisanda. Like, girl, we have been lucky. So
yeah, but at the same time, I don't know if you saw some comments on social media where someone said, like, it's so cute how you whenever you've got a new guest or someone shows up for your podcast, then you seem so shocked. But like, why? This is a good podcast. This is a good thing that you're doing.
What do you mean shocked? And then when they like pop in on the Zoom and I'm like, oh my god, I didn't know you were gonna be here.
No. No, novels.
I do like kind of know, Rebecca. I plan. I prep. You mean I'm shocked that they would want to be on the podcast?
There we go.
Yeah, I am, because we're like a young podcast. I didn't think people know we all want to be on this little
and fresh.
Scrappy little podcast. But it's been really humbling, and it's been really nice, and we have even more amazing guests lined up for you guys.
So exciting.
We're putting in the work
and the love.
We're hustling. Yeah, like if you ever looked at me, like I'm like the least hustler looking person in the world. I'm like hunchback and like hide under tables type. And like you think like this year I've been like hustling for guests with this podcast, like jumping in people's DMs. Like this has been the biggest like move out of my comfort zone ever. But anyway, Rebecca, how have you been?
Good. It's been a busy week, first week of March. But I've managed to miss some sleep and continue watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I finished it. And obviously I'm obsessed now. And also Weird Al Yankovic shows up at some point. Like, yeah, so that was fun.
You should watch
my week.
It's a cancelled show. And I actually don't know where it would be on, but there's a show called Gallivant. It's like a medieval show, but it's like comedy and musical, and it's hilarious. Weird Al pops up in there also, but it's so funny.
But Weird Al is such a blast from the past, don't you think? Like, we were like heavy fans when we were 15 or something.
Yeah, but we also discovered him late. Like, he'd been famous since like the 80s. I remember when I discovered him like randomly on YouTube, or like we discovered him. And then I told my sister about it, and she's like, everybody knows about Weird Al Yankovic. And I'm like, have you seen this guy? He has this parody of, what is that song? The one from, it's on the Justice. with the from Dangerous Minds. Uh, as you walk through the
In the
valley
valley
of
of
the
the
shadow
shadow
of
of
death,
death. Yeah.
I'll take a look at my life. What's it song called? You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
his parody of
The
that.
listeners can tell you.
But after this, I'll Google it. But yeah, no, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. But what have you been crashing on this week, other than Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
That's all I've been watching. That's all I've had time to watch. What have you
Oh,
been
so
what
was
have
that
you
your
been
answer?
crushing on? Yeah.
So I've been watching a lot of Love Island. It's South Africa, which is terrible. But if you guys want to hear more about my thoughts on it, we have mini episodes coming out where I talk to different Love Island fans about like the week's episodes of the show and who they're liking and who they're not. So I'm not going to talk too much, but it is quite addictive and it's quite interesting to see how South African people in dating situations deal. We haven't had like a proper, other than The Bachelor, proper dating show with like a lot of people interacting with each other in a long time.
Yeah.
Like even Date My Family, it's like, specific people. All the Afrikaans shows, they like select people for you. It's not the same. But like to counteract that, a South African show I have enjoyed is Tackers, which is like a drama series. It's like about 5 episodes or something like that. And it's really well made. And it was thrilling from beginning to end. I was addicted. Sisanda's actually in that show. Like in the interview, I fangirled a bit about it. He's like, Karen, I know you like Tackers. It's okay. Like he's really good in there. But the show itself is brilliant. And I really loved it.
Okay.
Probably one of the best South African shows I'd ever seen. But yeah, but otherwise, guys, you can find me on Instagram at Karen Walby, on Twitter at Karen Walbies. Sign up for my newsletter, wildstreams.substack.com. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to the show on YouTube. We have more exclusive content coming soon, more roundtables and that kind of stuff. So yeah, don't forget to sign up for our YouTube. And when you listen to the show, share it on Instagram and tag us, please. Let people know about it. We appreciate like all tags, all messages, everything. So yeah.
The podcast can be found at Crushing On Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find more information about this and all our other episodes at our website, crushingonpodcast.com, and send any feedback to crushingonpod@gmail.com. Join our Facebook group, Crushing On Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. Let us know what you think about what was discussed in this week's episode by sending us a voice note or email to crushingonpod@gmail.com. The show is produced by me, Karen, and Rebecca Barches. The show is edited and engineered by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Nathifa Maroof. And the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can any way that you can. Keep up to date with all our episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others find the show. We'll be back next week with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then!